10 years, 20 years, people were talking about this. Now we're going to talk, okay, we need to check the privacy of the children, how children should use social media, how we're going to protect them, how the algorithm is not going to like provide money for these people who are exploring this kind of content. That's horrible. So you see, the scenario is not good, but we have to at least amplify the voices of people who are like telling this.
Welcome to Get Discovered, a podcast about AI, SEO, and online discoverability. In the first season of this podcast, we're focused on simplifying AI. We're taking a step back and trying to discover how people are using it, what AI really is, and hopefully making it easier to understand for you and your business. Today, we have our first repeat guest, the wonderful Fabio de Almeida, also known as Bionis. Fabio is head of design at Domrock.ai, a Brazilian tech company that offers AI and data analysis solutions. He's also doing his PhD in speculative design and has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the intersection of AI and data. Now go ahead and listen to part one to see what we mean. Perfect. So, Bionis, welcome back.
Thank you, Joey. It's nice to be here again.
Perfect. So yeah, last time we talked about the definition of AI, and then we sort of got into a conversation talking about a number of topics, kind of coming from different books like Empire of AI, and a few others. Today we're going to focus on some privacy risks and data protection considerations, and then maybe touch a little bit on your research. So starting off with privacy risks. So yeah, I think it's been about a month or so when it was released that some ChatGPT conversations were actually searchable on Google because the sharing functionality actually made that chat public. So, kind of thinking in that context and from your awareness, so what are some things that people should be thinking about when it comes to the privacy of the data that they're putting into and getting out of ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, and any of these other large language models owned by big tech?
I think when you think about data privacy, I was thinking about the other subject we talked about, data colonialism. Is like, and there's is this relation with colonial forms of like conquer and also acceptance of terms of servicing technology. I'm gonna bridge this. I'm saying this because in the past, I'm going to give you a story here, a brief story. In the past, when the Spanish invasions, they went to America to conquer the land and the people, they had this formal thing of like saying a document that was called requerimiento. Requerimiento
Hmm.
was like reading, like in Spanish. It was about to read to this native people and they have no idea about the language and they talk about all the arguments, the reason they were there. The reason was they're like to bring civilization, to bring the word of God, Christianity. And there is a part of the text, the reading that says, if you don't agree with this, you're saying that we can use violence, we can do whatever you want, we can take your land and your goods and everything, we can slave, you can become slaves, and that's it. That's terms of service. There is
Hmm.
lots of studies now that make this comparison. And it's like when you like go through, we're gonna use as ChatGPT or we're gonna use Google, or whatever, any kind of digital product where there is like terms of services, lots of things related to data privacy, and people just don't read. They just click accept. And in doing that, they are like giving these corporations entire power for them to use your data whatever they want. It's not like it means if we think these tools are like we've been using these tools daily, um, constantly, we are like always like making this flux of personal data going on, and you have no clue about this, what kind of data they are like getting, how it's going to use, how is they are they going to use to train AI? Are they going to use or to it could be free available in a link in Google that people can go there and find. For example, my conversations in ChatGPT is like people
Oh,
are not aware of this. I think the first thing is people understand. first of all, before data privacy, is what kind of relationship, what kind of contract I'm doing with these companies that supposedly are giving me for free or now for money? Because in
Mhm.
the past it was free, but now they're charging.
Yeah,
So what kind of contract they're doing, what kind of data, and how they're using the data.
yeah,
So, and there is a lot of issues as well in terms of privacy regarding, for example, children, regarding sensitive information, medical information. There's lots of other more like important things that we can talking about when it comes to privacy.
yeah. So we actually recently interviewed the head of AI for our company, and she spoke about this. The way that she explained it was, don't put anything in there you would not want to read on the newspaper's front page, basically,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I think it's easy for us. I kind of see the use of AI breaking into two spheres, right? So we have what you do with it in the context of work, and then also what you do with it in the context of your personal life. So it's
Yeah.
really obvious that the things that happen in your personal life you want to keep private, right? If you take a picture of a rash on your arm and you want to Google the symptoms or look for the symptoms, whatever, that's not something that you want other people to see that you were looking up. Or if you're preparing to divorce your wife and you start looking at divorce paperwork or something, you don't want that to become public. But also, I think the same approach needs to be considered in the context of work, right? So if you start sharing, let's say you want to do some financial forecasting for your company, or you want to share some go-to-market strategy or something like that, you would not want to share with your competitor. When you put that information into one of these large language models and you don't understand the privacy commitments that that company made, through the terms of service that you probably didn't read, or if you did read it, you didn't read the whole thing. That's
Yeah.
basically sharing it with as many people that might have the interest of looking at it. And even in the case of, when the model is actually using your prompts as training data, that can then maybe not necessarily exactly how you typed it in, but that could become part of the training corpus, right? And it could be spit back out when another user comes to them and asks the same question that talks
Yeah.
about the same topic that you brought, right?
Yeah. There was this guy actually I was reading another day. He was using WeTransfer. WeTransfer is a very popular tool. People put lots of documents. It's easy when your like internal system is not working, your corporate system is not working. I say, let's send this PDF, this
Hmm.
presentation, these documents using WeTransfer. At some point, he was trying to say, okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to close my account. And he was reading the terms of services, and it says that everything he puts on WeTransfer is property of WeTransfer. So they
Yeah,
own this material.
yeah,
Is can use this material. It's very complex because now people have, I think, people have technology to connect dots easily. Let's say I'm talking about a specific subject for a specific company. There's something sensitive, is work related. Now we're getting technologies behind it that can be able to connect dots easily so they can make a pretty much idea of how a company, for example, is evolving, how workers are performing, if they're like cheating or not. And
yeah,
then I think we get a point where some in the background, some can connect dots. We have
yeah,
technology for that, and it could be really problematic in the future because how we gonna guarantee that someone's gonna apply for a job and someone gonna read stuff about you did, how you use, for example, if you use ChatGPT to do the work for you, you're supposed not to.
hmm,
uh, you know what I mean? To evaluate your creativity, but you're using ChatGPT to do stuff. So I mean, it's just a few examples, but in the end, uh, yeah, we could have this new form of like vigilance around us that's going to be very problematic, and it's going to kill privacy. Yeah. And privacy is a very important thing for human beings, for
yeah,
our critical and emotional development.
Yeah. I feel like we could do an entire episode about that, just the importance of
Yes.
privacy.
I
maybe
was talking to
maybe a
you. I
part
was coming.
three.
I was like here with lots of like authors that was they're like they're very like good for us to think about privacy and intimacy as well
Yeah.
as okay, but we can do another time.
Yeah, that's a
Part
part
three,
three.
part three maybe.
Yeah. So I want to talk
That
a little bit more about that too, because so, for example, with ChatGPT, so ChatGPT just came onto the world stage, and we know with OpenAI's approach, it's always been about scaling, 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 scaling the model. And when they scale the model, they need exponentially more training data each time they scale the model because of just it just takes that much more. And now we've really run out of all of the human generated content that they could find, right? So they use Common Crawl and as many other sources as possible. So one thing I want to talk to you about is fair data collection. So if we just take OpenAI, um, do you remember the Studio Ghibli controversy that happened,
hmm
right? So
hmm
for those who
yeah,
aren't aware, if you don't know Studio Ghibli, go to Netflix and get some culture, right? You need to know. Anyway, it's
I agree.
really, yeah, yeah, really, really famous Japanese production house. And the artistic style of Studio Ghibli is very iconic. There are a lot of really good movies that were, the plots are of varying degrees of important or interesting, but the aesthetic, the animation, and the artistic nature of that is really unique. And what OpenAI did is they trained on all of that visual data. And now you can, I think to this day, go into ChatGPT and ask for a transformation of a photograph of yourself or an object or something in the Studio Ghibli style, which obviously, well, I have my own perceptions of what that does to Studio Ghibli and what the fair use assumptions could be about OpenAI. But I want to hear what you think about that, Bionis.
Yeah, that's very bad because that's lots of questions, or lots of issues that we can talk about this. And but one thing is like it's really problematic because basically this generative AI, large language models, they're collecting data that was like back to the 90s when the internet was like growing, and it's like there's no control of this. There was like basically they're stealing data, and that's the problematic things about us considering data as a raw material that's free on nature for everybody to take. Like I said before, the cover of the super like there's this big example of the cover of the Economist magazine from 2017 that shows portrays data as oil, as a natural
Mhm.
resources, but it's not. But that's the thing. There is this rationality behind this, that there is that normalizes the collection of data, stealing of data, because it's in the internet, because it's in this is embedded in this data infrastructure that it makes us then okay, if it's there I can take, it's for free. It's so we are going to an era that is going beyond the limits. They're stealing, for example, the very amazing work of like Studio Ghibli that takes sometimes lots of illustrators and designers and animators to do this movie, and they're like basically saying, okay, it takes ages, like takes months to do this amazing movies, and they're like, okay, we're gonna steal. Is it the internet? It's for
Mhm.
free. It's a raw
Yeah.
material, but it's not. There's a lot of labor involved. There's a lot of intellectual property behind the artistry, and they don't care. But the thing is, for me, it's very controversial because sometimes they use this to as a marketing strategy to show how AI is amazing. So they go after artists in the first place to see us, to common people, to us to understand how
Mhm.
magical AI is. See, I can put the for like people who doesn't know technology or generative AI or what is a large language model, but they know, oh, I put my picture, I can see this amazing result. So
Mhm.
it gets in our mind that AI is super magical and it's doing because art is a great way to portray this. Now
Yeah.
it's hard for us to portray, oh, AI is good for like optimization, like other complex product, like complex issues is very easy. I would say it's a very good marketing, good but bad marketing strategy that shows the magic AI as this magical box. So
Hmm.
that's for me is the most. That's why we have to be really critical about,
Yeah.
because normal people assume, oh, this is really good, and they normalize. That's the worst for me. They normalize the idea of stealing things from other people,
Yeah.
and people were doing, even if they know, oh, this is from Studio Ghibli, but should I like do I? And that's problematic because we are like changing our values as society, when it comes to digital artifacts and digital infrastructure, and it comes to data, we have to have an understanding that data is about us, is about our experience in life, and that's for me is very important. When people normalize this kind of thing, companies they don't care, uh, and that's very bad.
Yeah. I think it's so I want to tie this back to your work. And kind of the bridge to get there maybe is to think about how extractive this process is. So it's extractive both from, if we just continue with the Studio Ghibli perspective or that situation, they're they're extracting the artistry and the human labor that was used to create this work, and they're leveraging that as well as extracting from you, the user, when you submit a picture to be restyled in a Studio Ghibli style, you are submitting training data. You are a subject of extraction as well in this process too. And I've seen a lot of people, they posted on Instagram the picture of themselves in the Studio Ghibli style. I just think that is problematic in so many ways. Number one, because of the whole issue with Studio Ghibli and
Yeah,
rights of fair use of extracting that artistry from the work that was done by all of those people. But also for you, you have submitted your face. You have submitted a picture of yourself to the algorithm that will be used for training in the future. I wonder if people understand or realize that. Where I think this kind of ties into the concept of colonialism, specifically as pertains to data and this efforts of extraction, is that
mhm,
colonialism as a project is so remarkably toxic. It pollutes the colony, so the place that is currently subject to extraction, and it pollutes the colonizers, the people who are doing the extraction. It
mhm.
changes our value system. It changes our perception of right and wrong. It's something that's so pervasive, it completely rewires the way that society runs. So,
Yeah.
on that, I think that's a good segue for you to talk about your paper that you're working on right now.
Yeah. Oof, I can talk forever about this because I've been studying data colonialism for a long time. But you're absolutely right. The thing is, we are living in the same system that like was in the 60th century when they tried to colonize and they took land and people. Now it's the same thing, but instead of taking lands, they are taking our life, the transformation of social relations into data relations, as you said. We've been using these platforms every day. So you're providing data for free, and they
Mhm.
get all this data and they bring to us products and we pay for them. But that's the thing. But because that's problematic, because now we see these large corporations, as I said, if you're gonna move, yeah, we are already living this, and our social relations are now data relations. For example, we are here, we're using this technology to talk. It's just me with you. It's a social relation, but also there is a lot of data going on behind here. There is audio, there is co-pilots, I don't know, lots of AI
Mhm.
trying to make a resume for our talk. So there's a lot of data being produced here.
Yeah.
So that's problematic when this is run by big companies, because in the end, if you control social relations, you control democracies, you control everything. You control even our perceptions of ourselves, how we develop our sense of ourselves. So we have this is very problematic. So for me, the main thing is to think, okay, this condition is controlled by few big corporations, right? They control not only the infrastructure, as you said, like material things, how to build this thing, but also the logics behind this of extracting data, of getting this design product and giving back to people, and they make them pay and make them feed this. So no one's getting paid for this.
Mhm.
This week in Brazil, there was the congressman that came with idea that okay, we should charge big techs for the data we provide them. It was simple like this. This is reality. And there was like lots of people were like shocked about this.
Mhm.
How come? How are they gonna pay us? They give us for free. We use these tools for free. No, it's nonsense. So that's the problem, the problematic, the normalization of this logic, of this economic logic of like getting data and stealing data and us being under like surveillance all the time. And we think that's normal, that we don't care about this. So having said that, as we have as a basic foundation, big corporations like running this data relations supplied by lots of mineral materials and cheap labor that mostly comes from the countries from the global south. So this is the countries that almost provide these materials, but they also suffer the most the consequences of bias, of the the malfunction of this product, and that's another conversation. But as I'm like just saying this because I think you have to think alternatives to design AI or data technology with peripheral zones with other communities and for the benefit of them. Nah? And there is a lot of like strategies you can thinking about this, and it comes, okay, we have to start at least, okay, we don't have the whole technology to do this tomorrow, but at least we have to be aware that we're gonna somehow redesign AI, rethink what is AI, because it's okay, it's a great like achievement of human as a society, but
Mhm.
we have to think what kind of other routes, what kind of other approach should we have when it comes to data technology and AI that you make good use of data? Not big, lots of data, but collecting data all the time, because there's the premise that comes from big techs. That's not reality as well. How can you rely on like better data for our communities? How can you use energy? This AI is powered by energy that it comes from my community. So what is the consequences of this? How am I gonna use this? Who benefits from this? How much does this cost?
Mhm.
How much this is taking from our community? What kind of values I'm getting from this? So we have to think, I would say, in small ways
Yeah.
and change the perspective, this colonial perspective that all the better things, all the progress, optimization, future is in the hands of big techs and big corporations, and they're going to lead us to a better future. Because in the end, it's not like they don't care about this; they care about their profits
Yeah.
and to make money because this is fair game. They're like
Yeah.
private corporations. They are now governments. They are now like ONG. They're like, you know what I mean? They're like, in the
Mhm.
end, they have to be lucrative because they're like private companies, right?
Right.
So we have to think other ways, and also to trying to have, I would say, this the colonial approach around AI. How can you not escape from this logics of like uh, that has been here for centuries? Because actually,
Yeah.
we are like, if AI is like reproducing the past, you're not going to get away from the bad things that happened in the past, as we see now as society. Some
Mhm.
people now say like every time is we go to the media to go to political issues that's going around, they say, "I've seen this before. I've seen this before." And our technology say, "Okay, but I can not do other things different than that because I'm repeating story itself
Right.
in this loop."
Yeah.
That for me
Yeah.
is the worst because now we are not only destroying the planet, but also we're destroying the sense of ourselves, the images we have about ourselves.
Yeah.
It's very philosophical, I know, but this is something that we have to think about it.
Yeah. So how do we think about that? It seems like it seems like it's already going in this direction. It's using the data from the past that will perpetuate the same biases that we always had because we're not selecting and being thoughtful about the training data. But it also, we've, it almost seems like we have allowed ourselves, or we have actually ourselves rewired perceptions of social relationships and perceptions of self and perceptions of democracy and all of these other things. And I really, do you think that there's a case for optimism in any of this? Do you see any examples of pushing back against this in ways that give you some hope in any way, big or small?
Of course, there's a lot of people are reflecting on this, but I think what is really good is people are like going back uh, to other kinds of knowledges or communities to try to get a sense what they think is good for them. For
Mhm.
example, we have studies that go to indigenous community in Colombia, for example, and make us them think, design with them probably technological solutions that was going to benefit them based on their view of the world, based on their, I would say, their cosmovisions. How do
Mhm.
they think about their relationship with nature? How they work in community? What is good for them? What is not? Because they have particular like circumstances that is going to be different from everywhere else. That's good things. We have to. Some people, there's a lot of new initiatives. Some people do some things that call small AI. How can you make
Mhm.
AI small in terms of, oh, this AI is good for this community or for this group of people? That there's a lot of people thinking about this, and also environmental costs of AI, because this is another big issue now. Because people, again, we are normalizing using ChatGPT, all this technology, but as we talk about data being stealing, we don't care about the planet being destroyed as well. So uh, I think for me, being optimistic at this moment means people getting AI literacy. At
Mhm.
least that's it's the first step for me. Where people need to understand what is
Yeah.
data, what it comes from, how it's produced, who is involved. Who is like there's lots of cheap labors around countries from the global south. There are training sensitive content from Facebook, from Instagram. They're like training the responses from ChatGPT. They get like little money from this, and
Mhm.
that's the kind of thing we need to be aware of. I would be very happy if people start to be aware of this and start to make like claims to say, "Oh, we have to change that." I think, as you said, the Studio Ghibli gave us this because it's pretty much famous. So everybody, it was a starting point when people were questioning, "Oh, come on, guys, this is too much, right?"
Mhm.
But for me, being optimistic, in my view, is to make people aware of the scenario. First step, and
Mhm.
second step is okay. Have as we have this condition, how we can rethink AI in another ways, in another directions.
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with this myself because I agree AI literacy is really important. So here's the deal though, because I think there's often a disconnect between AI literacy and action. So actually, myself, I've explained to people about the water and the energy usage every time they go to ChatGPT and have a conversation. And okay, you might just be looking for a hotel recommendation in some city, but then you engage in this long, multi-prompt discussion with ChatGPT about narrowing things down, and it goes to this research for you, and it comes back, and then you ask it to reformat the list, and you want bullet points, you want boldface, and all of these other things that you feel like you're just having this conversation. Well, actually, each time that you send a prompt, that's more water that's used to cool the servers this is running on, that's more energy that's used to power the servers that is running on, it's more traffic online back and forth to and from those servers in your device.
Yeah.
So I've talked to people about that, and I'm not an expert in the field, um, but I think I'm pretty believable, and I know that I'm saying something that's accurate. And a lot of people I tell about that just kind of shrug their shoulders and they keep using it.
Yeah,
So the
I'm
cynic
gonna
in me
tell you
thinks that
why.
like
Yeah,
literacy is not going to help or it won't help as much
yeah,
as we need.
I agree, but no, you're totally right. I agree with you. But for me is like, I like that you said this in the end, that people just give shoulders. That's for me what makes me really sad, because people to give shoulders, there are not the communities who are gonna be struggling about these things, right? For example, we're talking about this. If okay, we have AI algorithms that was designed to recognize faces, right? And they're very cool. They're performing well, but they don't perform well when people with black skin. So this is the community who's going to suffer the consequences of this product. So for me, that makes me really sad when if we give shoulders, we don't care about other people. For example, if we're going to build a data center in a city in Chile or Brazil or whatever, that's going to destroy the environment and consume all the water and destroy the species and the environment there. I don't live there. So I don't
Mhm.
care. So it's really sad when say people like giving shoulders to this, because it shows how privileged they are and the position of, okay, I don't fucking care. That's the problem with like, sorry, my language, but this is the problem of colonialism. Like,
I was just going to
okay,
bring it back to that. That's what it is because
I live in
othering
Europe,
these
I live in
people.
US. I
Yeah.
don't care if they stealing, like, if the Africa is a place that for trash, electronic trash, because I don't know, I don't go to Africa, but
Hmm.
I don't mind people being arrested because the system doesn't recognize their face properly. I'm not the only one who's going to jail, because every time I go to the airport or I cross the street in London, it's easy for them to see, oh, I'm a nice person. But a
Hmm.
black person that goes there, that's very nice, does your job, is really cool, can go to jail because the system's do wrong. They're gonna
Yeah.
confuse them with a criminal. That's really nice. One day it's gonna come to you. Even if with climate change or whatever, like people now are talking about the mix of technology and eugenics. For
Hmm.
example, let's be very dystopian here. Let's say, oh, everybody's giving their gene to companies like 23andMe or My Ancestry. Maybe in the future they're gonna say, "Oh, you're not Italian enough, so we don't have your genes." Or I can say there is data about you. Oh, you have
Yeah.
this percentage of these people that we don't consider humans, as we like seeing now. So you know what I mean? I know I'm being very creative and dystopian here, but people don't pay attention until they're gonna suffer the consequences of this. But for me, it makes me really sad, because a lot of people in a lot of countries, they're suffering right now the consequences of this. This is not now, like even decades ago. There's a lot of people like claiming this, but it makes me feel really sad that people don't pay attention to these things, don't listen to these people, because yeah, giving shoulders is really bad. So
Yeah. So I asked you about cases for optimism, and here we are.
sorry,
I
man.
think
I wanted
it's
to make it,
okay.
but it makes me feel very emotional when I talk about
Me
these
too.
things. Because how come
Yeah.
people don't realize this? There's a lot of like articles and people are like
Yeah.
talking about this openly. Like even in
Hmm.
Brazil, there's a huge discussions about sensitive content about children is posted in TikTok and Instagram, and we're talking about this now. I think we have good examples. You're talking about AI literacy now. I don't know if you know, but in Brazil, there's a big issue of like kids being portrayed in any kinds of a way in platforms they don't care about. They show the content, they get money from this, lots of influencers, but there are a lot of pedophile involved in this scheme, and it's horrible. And people say, okay, now took like for us 10 years, 20 years, people were talking about this. Now we're going to talk,
Hmm.
okay, we need to check the privacy of the children, how children should use social media, how we're going to protect them, how the algorithm is not going to like provide money for these people who are exploring this kind of content. That's horrible. So
Yeah.
you see, there's like it's not the scenario is not good, but we have to at least amplify the voices of people who are like telling this. How do you make? I think it's more like our like counter marketing strategy, right? How can
Right.
you make like good content to make people aware of these things, to build empathy, to make us being really critical about all these tools of as a society? I don't know.
Yeah. It can be really disappointing to me how easy it is for us to other people. right? When you don't know someone individually, of course, but even a group of people because they're from an entirely different country, from an entirely different continent, from an entirely different culture, it's really easy to abstract them, right? And so you even what I'm doing now is saying just them. Them could be a collection of millions of people, some of whom like to watch cartoons and some of whom don't drink milk. And they're like they're all of these collections of all of the things that bring these
Yeah,
identities together. And it seems so easy for us if we're not confronted with them in any real physical way to just kind of shrug our shoulders and say, well, that's not our problem. It doesn't sound that bad. And it's kind of this colonial dehumanization that I think we see a lot in the digital world nowadays.
yeah,
It's sad.
yes. It is sad because actually, if you look at social media, for example, they do the completely opposite. Instead of building connections and make people more like, they're also promoting individuality above all. I'm a product. People like young people see themselves as product, as like, okay, my Instagram feed, my TikTok is the way I portray myself. And again, there is a normalization about this being the status quo. This is what everybody should be doing. So when you make this engine that makes people more, I mean, selfish, they treat themselves as product. Like they're very, everything they do, even their intimacy is performative. How
Hmm.
come I'm gonna like open my mind to think about empathy, to really
Yeah.
like see others in through other lens, and the other, everybody is like a kind of, if you see for say, if you say for a teenager, oh, you build your image on Instagram, on TikTok, you're like a company, you do your branding. How come they're gonna think about other people? They're gonna do everything's gonna benefit them in the end. This
Hmm.
mindset, instead of make us connected, actually, technology is supposed to do this to make us to know the world, to know other places, to meet other people, is making people more like. And even if they do this kind of empathy performance, it's sometimes it's like performative in the end. It's kind of branding that doesn't resonate, as you said, doesn't
Hmm.
produce actions. It's easy for
Yeah.
me to put like hashtags and all the things, but in the end, what are we doing? It happens a lot with LGBTQ plus community that in like companies go and it's June, they do a lot of like, oh, we love the gays, we love lesbians, we love trans people, everybody. But it's a marketing strategy. But what is the
Yeah.
action? Where is the law? Where is the social, political, social like outputs of this?
Hmm.
It's just self-promoting. It's just marketing. That's
Yeah.
the thing when social, um, cultural, political stuff are encapsulating marketing, but in strategies. That's the worst for me. That doesn't like, if this actions, if this campaigns, if this mentality change the way we make laws, we make a regulation is good. But otherwise, if it doesn't produce any effect, how are we gonna do this?
Yeah. So let's wrap it up with that. I think, I was going to
Very
ask
heavy,
how.
very optimistic about it.
Well, I think ignoring the problem doesn't do anyone any good. So I think it's
Yeah,
important to have the
I agree.
conversation. And if we to tie it back to privacy and data considerations with AI, be mindful of the tools you're using. If you can, read the terms of service. If you can't, assume whatever you say will be shared with your biggest enemy. It will be on the front page of the newspaper and act accordingly. And more as pertains to technology and this othering and the distance created and the performative empathy, go out and hang out with your friends, meet someone for coffee, hug people, have real conversations in the street. That's the best thing we can do to break through this and to actually stay connected to each other in ways that are not only mediated by big tech.
Very well said.
Yeah. So, resources, things you think the listeners might want to read or people they want to listen
Oh, there
to.
is one that I was like, as we're talking, I saw there is this blog that's called restofword.io. excluded.org.
Okay.
I can send to you. It's really
Yeah.
good because it's really show. We talk about what happened in the world, what technology, what's the consequence of technology for other communities, what's going on, how is the labor behind it, invisible labor, all the bias they are producing around the world. I do recommend this. Just go there. It's really cool. You can
All
see
right.
really
Cool.
great material about the things we talk about today.
Nice. Any books or thought leaders you think we should follow?
Books. Oh, the books. I don't know. I don't. What the books I talked before, I guess. Oh, there is this. I told you
Yeah.
the Calculating Empires is like a work that from Craig Crawford.
Mhm.
I think everybody should see this. It gives this historical perspective. It shows how we ended up here now. The empires we have now, how are they connected to the empires of the past? And what else? I think so for now. There are
AI
other
snake
books.
oil, right? We talked
A9,
about AI
yeah,
snake oil. Yeah.
yes,
I can't pronounce the
exactly.
author's last name, so I won't try. But um, tremendous, skeptical, and I think fair assessment of what AI can and cannot do, and how the average person can know the difference.
I think we told before, but there's this book called The Eye of the Master from Matteo Pasquinelli. It's really good. Uh, there is another from Shoshana Zuboff. It's called Surveillance Capitalism. It's really good as well.
Yeah, surveillance capitalism, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this is good. Yeah,
And if the people want to find you, LinkedIn is the best place.
LinkedIn. Yes,
Cool.
LinkedIn. My
Perfect.
name is Fabio de Almeida, number 9. That's me
Perfect.
on
All right,
LinkedIn.
number 9. We'll put the link in the show notes. Well, Piones, thanks for being our
Okay,
first
man.
repeat guest. And
Thank you, man. It
yeah,
was
take
my
it easy.
pleasure.
I'll see
You
you Sunday
too.
for coffee.
Please, let's do it.
Thanks for tuning in to Get Discovered, a podcast where AI, SEO, and the future of online visibility collide. For more about us, swing by Prerender.io. We make sure your site isn't hiding from Google, Bing, or the next gen AI bots sniffing around for fresh content. I'm Joe Walsh. See you next time.